essentially no connectivity. They have no connectivity.
They can get connectivity if they climb out their nearest coconut tree and extend their hands, which is happening in a lot of rural areas.
Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the New Normal Business Show presented by SERVIO Technologies, co-presented by Bitstop Network Services Data Center and MB Tech News. Today, we are going to discuss online learning in response to the pandemic. I'd like to thank the following who have contributed to our research. So we'll be posting it. So we have Ms. Leilani Galvez from DepEd, Maria Cecilia Junior Fernandez from DepEd, Chito Ibrahim for DIC from DICT, Oliver Cam from DICT, Eileen Apollo from Google Education, Nina Lynn Arskagia, Sulit Kakanata from HFSE International School, Singapore, Adnan Ahmad, Office of Senator Win Gatchalian, Eloy Satino, WSA, Joel Wayne Ganibe from Pivot Philippines, Horace Jusay from University of the Philippines, Applied Physics, Martin Gomez, Chief Mascot of Dashboard Philippines, Father Jerome Marquez, SVD, and Arnold Jensen Catholic Mission Foundation Incorporation, Caroline Sedalina. Exactly. Okay. Joe started his IT career back in the 1980s when he first worked with Apple and then Microsoft. He was the president of the Philippine Software Industry Association in 2013 and 2014. He is now serving as a director or coach for several companies, SERVIO Technologies being one of them. He also devotes his time in helping businesses as a business technology coach. Wilson has founded several success startups centered around data management, processing, storage, and analytics. He is the president of Bitstop Network Service Data Center in Dagupan. He finished his masterals in information technology in the NUS, a gold medal awardee of the Singapore Computer Society. He is also a technology columnist for Manila Bulletin Tech News. I'd like you to welcome everyone, our business technology coach, Joey Garango, and our data analytics wizard, Wilson Chua. Welcome, Joey. Welcome, Wilson.
Welcome, Wilson. You're still muted.
Yeah, somebody muted me. It must be Brian.
Not
Today's topic is particularly important because the next thing that everybody's looking forward to, of course, is the opening of schools.
Yeah. Or the non-opening of schools.
Or the non-opening of schools. So maybe before we get into the main part of our discussion today, Wilson, let's take a look at worldwide what's happening right now. Okay, so as many of our viewers already know, in places like Singapore, Japan, South Korea, and even Taiwan, not only are they talking about already the opening of their schools, but in Taiwan, in fact, they've already opened, diba?
Yep.
So the question now is, given that these countries are opening, should we follow suit? Should the Philippines, come August, for example, should all our schools open up and allow students to come to school and resume normal operations? What do you think?
Well, for me personally, I don't think we should follow our Asian neighbors for the simple reason that the Philippines' contact tracing efforts are far below par. So,
Yes.
Korea, Taiwan, they can afford to do that because they have awesome technological back contact tracing efforts.
They have the technology and they have good programs in place which are properly funded and manned. They're able to do contact tracing real quickly. If there is an outbreak somewhere in the cluster, they're able to isolate it, basically put it out before it can spread to the general population, which I believe is hindi naman sa pinipintasan natin, but I don't think that's the case in the Philippines. Right? In these other countries, they have been able to manage the situation, which we cannot see happening here. And let's not forget that, students, children, are the biggest super spreaders of disease in any household. Diba? Then they're the ones that bring probably only followed by employees who come home to the household and bring pathogens from the workplace. Pero number one talaga sa mga students.
And let us not forget, in the Philippines, we live in multi-generational housing. So when the
Exactly.
kids come home, they might infect their parents and they might infect their grandparents as well.
Exactly.
As any cousins,
meron pa mga household, pati apo sa tuhod, kasama pa rin nung
andon,
lolo, di
oo.
ba?
So, it's a great risk if you allow the students to go in. But we can also appreciate the concern of educators that if children are not back to school, they will tend to slide. So if
Yes.
they are not being educated for a long time, they would slide back in their competency levels.
So the bottom line is education needs to resume. Education needs to continue, but given the pandemic, I don't think it can, especially in the Philippines, it cannot continue the old way. We cannot continue in a situation where students come to a school, congregate in school, the teacher comes to the classroom, teaches all in front of them, and basically starts spreading the infection, and then the students go home and carry that infection with them to their households. Hindi na pwede yun.
Yep. So
So,
that's a good segue into our top five.
so we came up with top five, right? The top five suggestions for education as a response to number five.
The use
As
of
part
big
of,
data. Yeah. We find a lot of schools right now, most of them do not use big data to analyze or improve student outcome. Especially now, the buzzwords are um, out, outcome-based education and multiple exit points, right? So if you don't analyze, if you don't collect data, and you don't analyze, you cannot give the students that opportunity. Big data has been done elsewhere in the world to improve student results. They can also be used to reduce dropout rates. They can also be used to drive curriculum enhancement. And finally, all those data you collect can be used to guide students to match them with potential employers. So those are the four examples. At the University of Central Florida, the administrators there collaborated with Microsoft to use predictive data analytics to understand trends in students and faculty success. And then again at Dartmouth College, the IT teams there use the real-time data to help drive instructional design. So how did they do this? They use the study metrics, including attrition rates, course enrollment sizes, and student performance to drive the redesign to make the impact more impactful, for lack of better words. Yeah?
so given the benefits, Wilson, why do you think that this has not been widely adopted
Well,
in our school systems?
number one, I think people are not yet aware of the benefits of big data. Number two, it's hard to collect the data. Remember, most of the courses right now are analog, book, paper, pen, and pencil. So I look forward to the day when everything is digital. So everything you do leaves a breadcrumb of data that we can then harvest for further analytics.
Look at number four now, which is interactivity and ratings. And what does
Correct.
this mean?
So there are a bunch of software you can find online to help teachers gauge the comprehension of students through the use of gamification. So like they have puzzles, they have games where students will enter their answers, much like a poll, and to see which one answers correctly. And with some of this software, like we're seeing now on the slide, Webroom, Kahoot, Mentimeter, AHA Slides, and WooClap, they automatically float the highest scorer to the top. So there's a sense of game and challenge, right? So it
So the
makes
interactivity, the gamification, the display of ratings is in a way, it's a way to sort of simulate in the virtual world what they would normally experience in a classroom. So
exactly.
trying to make it more interesting and exciting for the students to interact with the teacher through these different software technologies.
Well, two things here. They can also be done in the classroom and
Yes.
in and out of the classroom. Now, imagine the benefit, let's say to the national government, if the system can help predict who among the students are at risk of dropping out of non-completion before they decide to do so. There are telltale signs. Like, for example, attendance will drop off, tardiness will increase, their scores will go to,
Obviously, if you're talking about interactivity, software technologies, well, that suggests that somehow the student who is not in the classroom needs to connect. They need connectivity. So our third suggestion is to, by gosh, I think this is already old suggestion, improve connectivity for the homes where the students are going to be and the schools. Is that
Right.
an old thing? Wilson, matagal na bang sinasabi daw? Matagal na ba?
Yeah. This has been known for a long time, but exclusive sa atin dito sa show natin is the first time we put the numbers into a visual, right?
Mhm.
So, Brian, please show up the visual of the scatter chart, the multicolored one. So what we did was we took the number of DepEd schools for 2015. There are about 46,000 or over. And then we meshed it up with Project BAS cell site information. And then we employed QGIS algorithm to match the school to the nearest cell site. The output now is we now know how far away every single DepEd school is to the nearest tower. And then we got this output and plugged it into our Tableau to further add the median bandwidth of each cell site.
So I'm really curious to know. Maybe you can explain that. Ang laki kasi nung area ng scatter graph na pula eh. Ang laki eh. Tapos yung dark blue tsaka green mas maliit. Tell us what this data means.
So each of the circles there represent one single school. And then you will notice that some of the circles are larger than the rest. This represents the size of enrollment. So if the school has a large enrollment number, you will see their circles bigger. Now, the color coding is with regards to bandwidth. If they have, like the reds are less than 1 Mbps per second.
Oh
right?
my gosh.
So it means that if you were doing online education or video, wala, putol-putol yan.
Hindi pwede,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, on the y-axis, you have the distance of that school to the nearest cell site on a logarithmic scale. Yung x-axis, logarithmic scale din. But that one represents the bandwidth.
I am seeing, Wilson, quite a few very large populated schools also have a very large distance between them and the cell site.
Correct.
That's not good. That's not good. That means a large population, large part of the student population is in locations that are not being served.
Right. And what I did was, if we define not good as any school that is more than 5 kilometers away from the nearest cell site, we calculated around 50% of all DepEd schools are in that category. 50% are beyond 5K. So some of them are 10K, 20K, 30K away from the nearest cell site.
Essentially, no connectivity. They have no connectivity.
They can get connectivity if they climb out their nearest coconut tree and extend their hands, which is happening in a lot of rural areas.
Let's go to the parts of the country that are most affected. I think you have another slide here that shows the different regions.
Right. So, Brian, if you can show the slide. So you can see that bandwidth is not uniformly good in the country. If I direct your attention to the NCR thing, you will see that most of the schools in the NCR area are within 1 kilometer of the nearest cell site. But if you compare that and contrast that to ARMM or BARM na ngayon, you will see that a lot of schools are more than 30K from the nearest cell site.
Yes.
So this chart just shows the inequitable distribution of internet access to the
So
rest of the country.
let's just call it as it is. Which part of the country has the biggest problem of lack of connectivity?
Mindanao area,
Mindanao,
yeah.
right?
And then parts of Palawan, parts of Samar, parts of Mountain Province.
So
You know,
those of us who are in the NCR Metro Manila area and think that we have it bad,
it's even
leave,
worse.
leave Metro Manila and it gets worse, right?
But hang on, there may be some light at the end of the tunnel. So
Okay, where's the light? Where's the
so
light?
so for some people that can afford it, um, there are new devices now, like the one we're showing now, which is the Huawei B315 and 310, that has external antenna to their Wi-Fi and LTE 4G modem.
I
This
see.
means that you do not have to climb the coconut tree and extend your arm. You fix your antenna to the coconut tree so that you never have to climb up, and you will get better reception and hopefully better bandwidth.
So if the family of the student can afford it, this would be a good way to be able to get connectivity in areas where it's poor connectivity, where normally a cell phone might not even work, but this might work.
This could work, and it could be used by the community. If you look down the specs, it's good for 32 users.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
So
And what can the community, or more specifically the LGUs, the local government units, do if there really is a connectivity problem? Or is there any low-lying solution that can be looked at for that?
yes, again, let's cite the example of Gapan in Nueva Ecija. What the LGU there did was they rolled out their own community broadband, and they sold it at a very low price with a guarantee of 5 Mbps per household. I think 50 pesos a month or something small. But then,
So
that means that's a large capex. If you need to serve a larger rural area where the population is sparse, then there are other technologies like TV white space.
TV white space, matagal lang pinag-usapan yan.
Right.
Is
So
that a real
there's a
solution now?
sample. Yeah, there's a sample diagram of a sample deployment for TV white space. So
Okay.
we use the frequency vacated by ABS-CBN. Yeah? If nobody else gets it, right?
Yes. And
So
there's other bandwidths naman. There are other that can be used other than what ABS-CBN was using. So basically what we're saying is, let's do something about connectivity to enable learning to happen during this time of pandemic.
okay.
So let's
So
move on to our suggestion number 2 as a response to the pandemic for education. And suggestion number 2 is homeschooling and alternative learning systems.
So
So
we ask ourselves, what were people doing before the coronavirus hit us?
yep.
How were
Well,
they?
even before, even BC, before COVID, there was already a group of students that were being served that did not even get disrupted because of COVID, and that is the homeschooled students. So
Yeah.
the Filipino homeschooler, and I'm showing you the link here. If you want to know more about the homeschool providers in the Philippines, the Filipino homeschooler, that website contains an entire list. And basically, homeschooling means that the parents or some other provider does the education for the children, for the students at home.
Yeah.
And that's been going on for a long time. Now, in the Philippines, less than 4% of students are homeschooled. But in other countries, a fairly large population is being homeschooled. Maybe it's time to take a look at that as a possibility for an alternative way of getting education without having to physically go to a school. Is to do your schooling at home. Okay. Now, the other thing that we included here is what we call alternative learning systems, and you've done quite a bit of study on that, Wilson. What did you find out about alternative learning systems?
Well, thank you. Thanks to Father Jerome Marquez of the Arnold Johnson Catholic Foundation Incorporated, I found several things. No, like the ALS systems are designed to prepare students to pass a DepEd's accreditation and equivalency exam. So these are for out-of-school youths to gain a. In the US, they call this a GED. If you're familiar, yeah.
Yep.
So GED. So that's the logo of the Arnold Janssen Catholic Mission Foundation, and their claim to fame, mind you, is 92% of their test takers pass,
Compared to
compared to 30% from the DepEd. DepEd's ALS, right? And you know, there's a significant market. My eyes were opened. So according to Father Jerome, there are an estimated 15 million Filipinos aged 26 and younger that have never finished basic education. And so with that large, yeah.
Alternative learning systems like that provided by Arnold Janssen and DepEd also really have a place, even before COVID. It has a place.
Yeah. And so I think the Senate caught the significance of ALS. So there's a pending bill right now, Senate Bill number 1365, shown here. I think it's authored by Senator William Gatchalian, where they strive to provide recognition of ALS providers through validation programs and put up rewards and incentives as well. So good luck on that bill, Senator Gatchalian. And so now, segue, we're now drumroll, number one.
So our number one suggestion for education in response to the pandemic is online education.
Surprise, surprise.
Yeah. Surprise, surprise. Yeah. So what exactly does online education means? Okay, it's actually a practice. It's not just virtualizing the student classroom experience. It really is a different approach. And that different approach is one which is based on a self-paced, outcome-based method, meaning it has to go at the student's pace, not dictated by the teacher. And it has to be based on outcomes, actual outcomes. Okay. So the difference between online learning or online education and physical in the classroom is that in the physical, the teacher drives
the pace.
The teacher is the one saying, okay, we're going to go this fast or this slow, and everybody has to follow. And that means that kung magaling estudyante,
you'll get bored.
They'll get bored because mahina yung pace. Kung hindi masyadong magaling yung estudyante,
you'll get lost.
And they get lost. So you are only satisfying a small subset of the students. Online learning is self-paced, which means that the student drives the pace, not the teacher. So if they need to go slow, they'll go slow. If they need to go fast, they go fast. The important thing is the outcome. As long as they get to the same outcome. And this kind of learning has already been practiced by a lot of other institutions, even BC. And one of the probably the most known proponents of what is called self-regulated learning, and I put an excerpt here from Wikipedia about self-regulated learning. You can look it up yourself. But the Montessori method of education is based on self-regulated learning. That means that the pace of education, the pace of learning is dictated by the student, not the teacher. And that is at the heart of online education. Kailangan yung estudyante, ang user experience ng estudyante ang importante. For those of you who are really interested in what this actually means, especially during this time of pandemic, one of the best proponents of the Montessori method in the Philippines is a school called the Abbas Orchard. We're showing you here their website, and they have
disclosure, we're not in any way related to all of them, right? We have no financial interest.
We have no ownership. We don't have any stock in this school, but they have been recognized internationally and locally as probably the best example of the Montessori method. And you know, the really interesting thing about Abbas Orchard is that they were one of the first schools to resume operations other than the homeschoolers. one of the first schools to resume operations after the lockdown. 2 weeks
Because
after the lockdown, they went back into normal work, but of course using Zoom and other technologies. Because when you have a self-regulated learning method, it means that all you need from the teacher is guidance.
mhm.
The student learns at their own pace. Okay, so
and
that's one, I think, one good testimonial for how effective this is, especially in the time of pandemic.
And speaking about the teacher, one of the benefits of online learning is the teacher can carve out more time
Yes.
because the tedious task of scoring, grading the submissions can now be automated. And that extra time can now be devoted to coaching and mentoring individual students whenever
Yep.
they get stuck at any of the modules. Now,
Okay.
so some schools may say, but my teachers are not trained to deliver online teaching. Well, there's a good news. So
Yes.
Brian will show us the chart. UP Open Learning, Open University has now courses that will help your teachers get trained to deliver
Yes.
online training.
And let's not forget that even before COVID, before BC, teachers were already undergoing training. As a matter of fact, we saw a statistic that showed that 36% of teachers had undergone some form of training in the use of digital technologies.
Those are the
Uh,
DepEd teachers, yes.
yeah, DepEd teachers, right? Now, as far as the online learning, there is a responsibility for the schools, of course. The schools have to provide the materials. And the materials in this environment needs to be both physical and digital. So for physical,
Blended learning, yeah.
DepEd actually has modules now that you can get. They're physical modules that you can deliver, but they also have digital courseware that they can deliver. Now, for those who want to do their own, there are actually software platforms available like Moodle, Blackboard, Google Classroom, Schoology,
Schoology by Rex
Schoology,
Bookstore.
right?
Again, we're not paid to do this.
Yes, these are just what's available. Some of them are fairly inexpensive, others are more expensive, but these are all learning management systems that allow you to deliver courseware digitally. Of course, the courseware itself, the digital courseware, can come from YouTube, it can come from Coursera, it can come from Udemy,
Khan
Code.org,
Academy.
marami yan. And the last one I was going to mention, which you beat me to the punch, is Khan Academy, which just so happens is also part of this thing called DepEd Commons.
Commons, yeah.
Tell us
So
about DepEd Commons, Wilson.
So I first learned about it from Lani in DepEd, and so I registered myself and took a look at the content inside, and I was pretty impressed. And so I researched more about it, and if Brian can show the chart, you can see the number of users growing almost exponentially on a month-by-month basis.
As a
So
matter of fact, I recall, Wilson, less than a month after its launch, it had almost 4 million users.
Grabe. So, there must be something to it.
Yes.
They talk to Globe and Smart. So whenever you use your cell phone to access DepEd Commons, data free.
Yes.
Data free. Only if you go out of the DepEd Commons will you start to get charged. Okay? And so
Wilson, parang Facebook. Facebook.
Parang
Diba?
Facebook, oo. Now, I also took the opportunity to interview some of my friends who are in DepEd to get their take. And so
Their take on DepEd Commons, right?
their take on DepEd Commons. And fantastically, it was generally positive. So we have a quote from Maria Celia Junio Fernandez, who's the schools division superintendent, Dagupan City, where
Now,
she extols. You can see the quote, right?
Wilson, full disclosure, you are from Dagupan.
Yep. So people know me from there. It's easier to get interviews if people know who you are.
Yes.
Okay, so
what
she
does that
says,
say?
yeah, so she says, their learners are millennials. So the jump to adapt to a digital platform is not so far. They could easily bridge the gap. But then the major access again would be some of their students are poor, so there would be lack of devices and lack of internet to the poorest of the poor. So that's
Yep.
one thing that needs to be addressed.
Good. So,
But having said so, you know, DepEd before, if you look at the issues plaguing their content, there are a lot of grumbling around inaccuracies in their textbook. Right? So let me take this opportunity to say that this COVID is a fantastic opportunity for DepEd to push through with their online education. Why? Because a digital content can easily be updated, edited, corrected. You only have to provide the link for people to submit errata and then have a change management process behind it to drive changes right then and there.
it's infinitely faster and easier to do that than trying to edit and republish millions of school books, right?
Right. You now don't need to publish the books. You do not need to deliver. You do not need to stock them. you know, where they aren't used and they get wasted. So,
There's actually already available what I would call general purpose digital tools that can be repurposed for online learning. So obviously in this time, everybody's already aware of Zoom, right? And I'm showing this kind of a list here on the slide of the 4 most commonly used digital tools now. There's Zoom, which is about 750 pesos a month per teacher. There's something called WebEx, for those of you not familiar with Cisco's WebEx. That's about 675 pesos per month per teacher. Microsoft 365 Teams, of course, was very popular. That's 125 pesos per month per teacher. And then you've got LARK, which is from SERVIO Technologies, 95 pesos per month per teacher. Shameless plug there.
This one they own.
Technologies. So yes, we have something to gain from that. But anyway,
Joey, not me. I'm not part of LARK.
Kami yun. So SERVIO Technologies is behind LARK, and that's 95 pesos per month per teacher. So even general purpose tools can be usable at this time.
Yeah.
Wilson, I think we have to wrap up now.
One final word, if I may.
Yes, please.
Right. So all this software that you mentioned allows you to do a recording, right?
Yes.
And once it's recorded, the output is an MP4 video file.
Yes.
Which you could upload to YouTube or Facebook. Or, more importantly, you can save to a thumb drive, which is cheap right now, and send it to a remote area that does not have internet.
Exactly.
You see?
That's another good use of the technology, is a way for your teachers to be able to teach more students, even those who don't have connectivity.
And if any of our listeners right now have more ideas, we'd like you to encourage you to share with all the people in our webinar today.
Right. So to wrap it up, because we're out of time, just 3 points. Number 1, Philippine schools should not follow our neighbors in opening up. We really should keep it the way it is right now.
Until and unless they have a very good contact tracing system there.
Right. And because of that, online learning, online education is the way to go. And you don't have to even get into the more sophisticated, the more advanced, the more expensive solutions for that. There are affordable digital tools, general purpose tools that you can use for online learning, like I mentioned earlier, Zoom, all the way to LARK and all of that. So this is not something which will cost an arm and leg to do. You can get it for a low price, okay?
Yep.
So I guess a final note, we're talking about education right now, but in general, any activity, business or otherwise, that is still out there today, you really need to begin your digital transformation journey. Now is the time to do it. If you have not done it already, all the things we're talking about today is digital. If you have not yet gone digital, you should start now. And even if you've started already, it's time to accelerate.
Yep.
SERVIO Technologies, we use our very own digital maturity model as a framework and roadmap in helping business owners and managers to start or accelerate their digital transformation journey. If you want your business to be a full digital native, contact us today at here or here. It's the www.basicdigitaltransformation.com. That's again www.basicdigitaltransformation.com. Shameless plug from SERVIO Technologies. Back to you, Wilson.
Well, that's it for me. I'd like to also, again, thank all of my friends that helped me put together all the research. Before this webinar, I had zero knowledge about homeschooling and ALS. I didn't even know they exist. And so with the help from our friends that we've properly credited, we hope to share all of this with you guys over here listening and joining us. So
Great.
that's it for me.